This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 233 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am forewarning you. I am definitely in a mood, and I'm going to take you down a road to make sure that you are really starting to think of yourself as a business and figuring out ways that you can monetize beyond the typical ways that we think of. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into how to make money on Instagram. Now, before we dive deep into this and have me get up on a soapbox and go on a rant, because I can promise you this, I am going to do that today. I want you to make sure that you listen to the episodes that I am going to reference in this episode and make sure that you grab the guides that are offered with each of those episodes. Whether you end up resonating with growing your Instagram and increasing your Instagram engagement and you want that guide, or whether you understand now that you need to have an email list and you want that guide, send me a DM, have a conversation with me after this episode. What really resonated with you? So send me a DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, and I want to continue this conversation because I know a lot of people coming to this are saying, yes, I'm ready to make money on Instagram, but how do I do that, right? And the thing that I need you to really, truly understand with this is that I am speaking about this topic in particular because I have coaching clients that have hundreds of thousands of followers that are not making money because they're not thinking of it beyond the traditional ways. So let's really dive into this and figure out ways that you can make money on Instagram. So in order to make money on Instagram, you need to be creating content that attracts the right person and gets your audience to engage with you. We know that we can't just throw spaghetti against the wall and try to figure out and put up whatever it is that we are thinking about up on Instagram. We need to niche ourselves. We need to understand what our people or the people that we are trying to attract want to see and want to hear from us. So you have to make sure that when you are creating that content that you remember to think about who are you trying to solve a problem for and what is that problem? And your Instagram should be answering that question and getting really clear on how you can solve that potential problem for them. Now, in order to take a look at Instagram, we need to talk about how we can actually build up our Instagram, our following, our engagement. So the first place that I want you to start with that, you can go to episode 56, all the way back in the archives here, but we talked about using Instagram stories to increase engagement. You already have an audience, you already have followers on Instagram. What are you doing to build that like, know, and trust factor? Because you guys, if you're looking to make money on Instagram, you have to have that like, know, and trust factor with your audience. Whether you're going to do a sponsored post, whether you're going to do affiliate marketing, or whether you're going to serve them with your own product or service. So really start trying to figure out what can you do to get more in front of them. And if you go to episode 56, I talk about this a lot, about how you can use Instagram stories. You all also know that I love using polls in stories in order to sell, which is what we talked about back in episode 184. Now, again, with all of these episodes that I'm referencing, you guys can jump in your podcasting app to them once you're done listening to be able to go and see, okay, what was this one about? Let me get that guide that goes and coordinates with that. And any guide that I give you is normally a workbook that's going to walk you through asking you specific questions to make it easier for you to engage with your people on the platforms in the way in which we're speaking about. Okay, so if we are talking about this, we all know, and of course, that we are starting all to pay attention to Reels. We've been talking about this on the podcast for some time. We talked about it back in episode 205, 206, and most recently in episode 228 with Brittany Crossan. If you haven't listened to those episodes, if you've been thinking about trying to jump into Reels, this is another great way to engage your current audience, but also to grow a new audience, because Instagram is still continuing in 2021 to push out Instagram Reels to a new audience using the engagement that you're getting off of them, as well as how you are tagging it and making sure that your hashtags are niched and specific to the people that you are trying to reach with that. So use all the features to know your people. Now, this is where I need you really to buckle up, because too many Instagram influencers don't know how to monetize that following outside of sponsored work, which you all know I love. I have always loved working on sponsored content. But if you are looking for the latest episodes, for the latest trends in how to pitch and what to be saying right now that is working in 2021, you can go to episode 106 and I walk you through those trends. So pitching is still something, and it's a way in which you can actually monetize your Instagram account, but it is not the only way. You also, many of you may be monetizing Instagram via affiliate marketing through Like to Know It, or using something like Amazon, or whatever other ways that you can use affiliate marketing. You also are probably doing it that way. Now, this is where the piece where I really need you to listen in, because those are the traditional ways that we think about. But those are the ways that it becomes a rat race. You're trying to reach out to the brands and figure out who has the actual campaign money to work with you, which is great because you can make a full-time income if you stay on top of that and continue to pitch brands and create long-term relationships. You all know that I believe in that, but you cannot build your business on rented space. And that is exactly what you're doing with Instagram. So this is what I really need you to take away from this episode, is that in order to make money on Instagram, you need to make sure that you have a way in which you are capturing those people, either an email list or a blog or a podcast, something that is yours, something that you own, so that if Instagram decides it needs to shut down tomorrow, you don't lose every single one of your followers. Or if they go through another algorithm update, that you don't have not even a quarter of your people seeing the content. Instead, you've had a way to actually gain those people already and grow your list, or drive them to your blog, or have them listen to your podcast. You have to have ways that you actually own in order to start to grow that. So when we're thinking about this, we talked back in episode 224 about how to grow an email list, the importance of it, the way in which you can't just simply grow everything on rented space. You need to have that list so that you can truly figure out what it is they want from you. And when you have a product or service, you are able to sell to them and be able to offer them that service, other than talking about it once or twice on Instagram, or however many times you want to do it there. You can still do these things on Instagram, but you want to have a way to actually be able to really create a better way to increase that like, know, and trust factor. I have so many clients that will come to me and say, I have 200,000 followers on Instagram. I'm getting sponsored work, but I know I need to diversify. How do I create a product or service for these people and get them to buy it? And the immediate response to me is, well, they're not going to pay a lot of money because they're not used to paying, and they are used to just getting stuff for free. That's all well and great. And here's the thing, you guys, that I need you to understand. You have trained them that way. You trained them to expect things for free. It is not that that's just the type of people they are, and we just kind of like get upset about it. That you train them that way. You've never offered them anything for free, or anything that is paid. So in order to train them to become buyers, you need to offer them a product or service right from the get-go when they sign up with you. And not just as an Instagram follower, but that's why we're talking about the importance of being able to grow your email list. Because when you grow your list, you can then offer them an opportunity to engage more with you and see the value that you bring, whether it is from an opt-in, a freebie, a guide that walks them through how you are an expert in a particular industry or problem that you solve. Or if it then offers a smaller price Tripwire product that shows them, hey, you got a lot of information from the free guide. Now let's take it a next level. And clearly you're going to get even more information because we're going deeper into it and it's going to be all in one place. And that's how you start to get them to understand that when they pay for a product or service, they're getting the higher level with you. They're getting more engagement with you. A lot of times your people love you. That's why they're following along with you. That's why you get great engagement on Instagram. That's why they're DMing you. But if you're not taking it the next level and you're just leaving it as DMs, and I know a lot of you saying, Jenny, don't say just DMs because it takes me all day to answer my DMs. I get it. But you're staying on a platform that isn't yours. You have no way of collecting that. You have no way of making it something that actually happens in your sleep. Because when you have an email list, that's what can happen. Because you have people on your list from around the country and around the world. And when it's 11 o'clock your time, when you're asleep, if you sleep like I do, because I go to bed early, you have people that are getting up in the morning and they are buying what you have offered through your email. So you really have to start thinking about your email list and making sure that you are growing that. To go along with this, I also mentioned the fact that you should have a blog or a podcast, something that you're collecting. I've had a lot of Instagram influencers come to me most recently, and they've said to me, Jenny, I have a great following over on Instagram, but it's not driving any traffic over to my blog or over to my podcast. Well, that's not what Instagram wants. Instagram doesn't want people leaving Instagram to go to your blog or go to your podcast. They want them to stay within the actual account of Instagram. So that's why I teach ways like polls in order to offer a guide to get on your list so that once you have them on your list, you can drive them to your blog or your podcast. Now, to go along with this, you already have this huge audience built in from Instagram that you're obviously finding this content, listening to this podcast episode because you want to know, okay, I've built up this audience. How do I make money now as an Instagram influencer? Well, you have proof and showing certain topics drive engagement. So now what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to actually get people that are looking for those topics driving to your blog or driving to your podcast. And the way in which you're going to do that is to pay attention to the words that are used, which is your keyword research. Now, back in episode, here is it, 154 with Ty Kilgore, he really went through how to think about looking up your keyword research. All that is thinking about what it is that people are searching in Google for. We're watching lots of changes happening, platforms trying to keep people within their social media platforms. We're watching Pinterest not letting out links, making it very complicated for people to actually get to a blog post, especially if we're talking home decor or DIY. They're putting all those little dots on it. And instead, it's going to the actual brands and businesses that have now invested in paying in Pinterest in order to keep people there and to go to their actual products that they offer. So what we need to do is use this great thing called Google that many people are now, as consumers and as users, are starting to use Google more and more. I can't tell you how many people I have talked to that say, Jenny, I don't go to Pinterest anymore to look up a recipe. I go to Google and I just put in what I'm looking for Google. Or I don't even go into Pinterest because I know it's going to have all those little dots and it's not actually going to get me to the tutorial that I'm trying to get to anyways. So I go to Google and I put in what I'm looking for. That's why keyword research is so important. And it's also why, as an Instagram influencer, you guys should be using your blog. Your people have already said, hey, let me comment on this. I've commented on this. I've shared this. I love this. You can see in your insights what content has done well. Well, now all you need to do is figure out what are the words that they are using to find out that same problem inside of Google. And when you connect these two things, now you have a way to diversify. You have a way to actually have traffic coming to your blog where you can then again get them on your email list. Because as I've said, and you heard me talk about it back in a recent episode where I talked about your email list growth being so important, you need an opportunity to get in front of them. People are 6 times more likely to take action from an email than they are from social media. 6 times more likely. And that is to click, to share, to put it out somewhere else where other people can find it. It's because when you get into someone's inbox, especially if you've done it in a way where you've offered value in exchange for their email list, like we talked about in that email list growth episode, we talked about the importance of a lead magnet or freebie or opt-in, all synonymous words. But when you give them something of value, they want to open your emails. They recognize your name. They know that they're coming to you. It's our way where 10 to probably 15 years ago, people actually used to go straight to a blog and just read through the blog and see what else that blogger was talking about. That's the way blogging started, is that people would just kind of fall in love with these blogs. And the first thing they would do in the morning, instead of going to Google or going to Pinterest or going to Instagram, was they would go directly to that blog and get the latest update and see what their newest post was about. So that's what you're doing with email. You're letting them know, hey, this is a new recipe. This is a new DIY that I have done. And you're inviting them to click over to it and review what it is that you've done, and hopefully even share it and talk to you. Because within that content, that is then a way that you can start to think out of the box and ways that you can diversify your income. You do not have to be stuck in this pigeonhole of, I think, make money on Instagram, that all I can do is sponsored posts and affiliate marketing. You can sell your own products or services. You just need to make sure that you are growing your list in order to do that, so that you can tell what it is they're coming to you for. Instead of creating content on Instagram, having conversations and thinking that because 2 people told you they want a cookbook, that a physical cookbook is going to sell and be worthwhile for you. I'm not saying that it wouldn't, but what I am saying is you need more than 2 people in your DMs to be able to tell you that. You need to already know what that cookbook is going to be in which niche, so that if you self-published a cookbook, you have proof based on them opting in to a free guide or ebook along those lines that are still in line with what the physical cookbook will end up being. Start thinking this way of, as an Instagram influencer, you have an audience built in. How do we take it to another level and not stick ourselves in this influencer pigeonhole that so many of us hate, that we don't like just being called influencers, that we want to be thought of as influencer entrepreneurs because we are business owners, because we do all the things and wear all the hats. But now we can actually start making the money that diversifies our income for us and gives us the opportunity to have products and services that we can offer. I know this episode gave you a ton of different resources. What I want you to do with this is I want you to listen to the episode again and think about, okay, which piece of this do I need the most help on? Am I trying to grow my Instagram following and really start to improve the engagement? Then go listen to the piece about stories and reels and go listen to those episodes that I referenced. If you're to a point where you're ready to you have 20,000 followers on Instagram and you want to go through and do sponsored work, go listen to the latest trends. But if you are someone that has the following, that has been doing sponsored posts, and you are ready to take it to the next level, then you need to make sure that you are growing your list. So please make sure that you go back to that episode. Again, send a question in my DMs on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose. I will answer any questions that you have. If you're not sure which guide is right for you, what path you should be on, what step comes first, ask me. I am happy to answer questions and send you on the right direction. We can't do all the things. We need to know what steps we need to be taking to move our business forward. And sometimes we need outside help that can kind of look in and have that larger viewpoint of your business to be able to say, this is the direction you need to go into. This is where you should be focusing. So send those questions that you have at Jenny_Melrose. You guys, the next episode that I have coming out for you is with Kylie Hodges. And I want you to make sure that you definitely keep an eye out for that episode when it does come out, because she is going to be talking about how we can make a money-making side hustle turn into a full-time business. She's giving us a 4-step framework on how to do that. It is such valuable information. And I know we often think of ourselves as, how do we take this side hustle and really scale it to diversify? She's going to go even deeper into that. If you haven't already left me a review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting app, I would so appreciate it if you did. It helps to get great guests like Kylie, like Lucas, who you have recently heard from as well. As always, I appreciate you all for listening in. And until next time, I will see you all then.